Hello, my friends. I'm back with more crafty inspiration using Spellbinders December Club kits. So I have a few of them here on my desk. They are friendship, love, and Valentine's Day themed this month. Let's start with the Clear Stamp and Die of the Month Club, one of my favorites. This one is called Forever Yours. I love the large alphabet stamp. And then there is a separate stamp for the I Heart You, and you can stamp that in a different color. And the dies cut out most of the sentiments, especially that alphabet sentiment. I just love that. Let me put this piece of white cardstock behind it so you can get a better look at it. Next up is the BetterPress of the Month Club. This one is stunning. It's called Friendship Lace, and you get this huge plate. It's about the size of an A2 sized panel. Let me pull out this paper to show you the size of it. And then you get 2 sentiments you can press out as well. They say, your friendship is everything to me, and you are the best part of my everyday. And all of the products in this month's release can be used all year round. Let's take a peek at the stencil of the month. You get 2 different looks in this set. Let me pull these out. So for the first set, you can make some heart argyle patterns. And then you get this single stencil with these pretty falling hearts on it. That one's really simple. The glimmer of the month is this gorgeous floral piece. It comes with a die, so you can cut out the edge of this floral piece if you'd like. And it also has 2 sentiments. They say, forever yours, and your friendship is everything to me. The 3D embossing folder is called Tiny Heart Scallop, and the hearts really pop out. They are very 3D. And this little set is what you get if you order or are subscribed to the kit and caboodle. It's called You're My Favorite Monster. It's a very simple die set, but it's so much fun to play with. And this month you get an extra goodie if you're a Kit and Caboodle subscriber. This beautiful tote bag that says, die cutting is my superpower. So let's get into card number 1. For this card, I'm going to be using a few of the clubs together. I'm going to start with the 3D embossing folder. I like to use a baby wipe to moisten the paper, and I gently brush it across both the front and back. This will really help prevent cracking when I run it through my die cutting machine. So let's center this piece of Dune cardstock in the embossing folder. And then I make up the right sandwich for this, which is the platform base, A, the embossing folder with the paper inside, and then the adapter plate, D. And I like to run it through a few times just to mold the paper into the folder really well. And then these tiny hearts really pop out of the paper. Let me move my Platinum 6 out of the way, and then I'll show you a close-up look at these tiny hearts. I did get a little bit of pink ink on here, but that's all right. It's not going to show up on this particular card. I'm using my Picked Raspberry Distress Oxide ink pad, and I'm wiping it over the 3D embossed panel. With your 3D embossed panels, it's really easy to do this, and it's not going to seep down into the areas where you don't want it to be because the pattern is so raised up. It's really nice. So here are 4 more panels that I'm going to be using. I'm using my Everlasting Circle dies. I chose 2 circles to put a window in this card. On my black cardstock, I'll use the larger of the 2, and I'll run this through my machine. And then for the smaller window, I'm using some tangerine orange cardstock. This will create a beautiful matted window for my scene. So I'll run that through my machine, and then I will layer up the black and the orange. And then as you can see, it has the beautiful orange matting. So I'll go ahead and tape these together with my tape runner. And I'm not worried about what it looks like behind, if it's perfectly lined up behind it. I just want an even circle with the orange. Then I'm going to put my embossed panel behind this. I'll use liquid glue and some tape runner. And again, I'm not worried about the back lining up perfectly. I just need a portion of that to peek through the window. And then this whole piece will be matted by some pink cardstock. This is Fruit Punch Pink. I'm going to set this panel aside for a few minutes and stamp out some sentiments for this card. I'm going to stamp out the I Heart You sentiment, pick them up with the door of my Mini Misty, and I want my heart to be pink, but everything else to be black, so I'll mask it off with some yellow tape. I'll stamp it out with the same picked raspberry ink first. And I'm just stamping this onto a piece of 80-pound white cardstock. I have to stamp it out a few times to get it nice and dark. And then you got to remember to pull off the masks. I almost forget that here. And just set them aside because you may need to reuse them like I did. Let's stamp out the pink heart. And I had to do that twice. Now I'm going to mask the heart and ink up everything else with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then once that's inked up, I'll remove the mask and stamp those down. I didn't get both sentiments that time, so I'm going to put the mask back on, ink them up really well, both sentiments this time. I'll remove the mask. And now I can stamp those out again. I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut both of these out. And then I'll set them aside along with the panel and start on the monster. This little monster is so cute, so I'm cutting him out with some pink Fruit Punch cardstock, as well as his arms. There's only 4 dies to this set, but there are a lot of little pieces within the set. I'll collect all of the pieces within my tray. And then once I have everything cut out, I can show you how this monster fits together. If you subscribe to the Large Die of the Month Club, you get 2 more monsters in that club. They're super cute. To add a little more interest to this monster, I'm adding some festive berries to the sides. This will add some shading and, like I said, a little more interest. This piece is the mouth. I'm going to glue the tongue in. And then it comes with a piece for the teeth. That will go up at the top. There's a tab at either side of this die where you can put glue and glue it behind the monster's mouth. So that is very well thought out. It's very easy to do. I'm just going to lay it down and pick up the mouth with the monster die cut. And then I have time to wiggle it around until I get it in place. Let's put the eyes together. So this piece will go behind the monster's head, and then the eyes stick out either side. And then for the eyeballs, you get a black piece. And I'll pick these up with my stick, a wax stick, and pop those into place. And then there are white circles that you put over this. And of course, you can put your monster together however you'd like. I'm going to make him appear as though he's looking up at the sentiment that I'm going to put in his hand. I'll have them going off to his right. Now for his arms. I like that there's a little circle piece to add glue to. make it easy to attach to his body. And you can glue on his arms so they're going up or down or in different positions. Isn't he cute? Now at this point we can put the card together. I'm going to use an action wobbler behind this little guy. They come in different sizes. I have larger ones and I have really small ones. And I'm thinking that the smallest one is going to fit the best. I'll peel off the release paper and stick it to the back of the monster. It's been ages since I've used one of these action wobblers, but it just went really well with this card. Now I can peel off the release paper on the opposite side of the action wobbler. I'm going to stick him right in the window. You don't see much of the 3D embossed hearts, but that little peek at the embossed hearts really adds a lot to the card. I'm going to glue the I heart you sentiment in his hand. Just pinch those together for a minute until it adheres. And then my second sentiment will be glued beneath the window, like so. I'm going to add a few pink dots to this. This will break up the black of the cardstock just a little bit more. And this just adds a lot more cute to the card. Here is a close-up look at the first card. Isn't that action wobbler just fun? This will be a fun surprise to mail out to someone. For my next card, I'm using the 3D embossing folder once again. I had a lot of fun creating panels with this embossing folder. I have a few over to the right, as you can see. For this card, I'm going to use a piece of graphite gray cardstock, and I'll run that through my Platinum 6. And I'll have links to all of these in my description box. This cardstock wanted to curl up at the sides, so I'm using my sticky mat to hold it down flat and my VersaFine Onyx Black ink to rub over the pattern and really bring out the hearts. I think that looks so pretty with the black and the gray. You can also ink up the background behind the hearts by putting ink on the smooth side of the folder. I'm going to put 3 different colors of pink here. And then the darkest one last. I'm going to be using this for a separate card later on. But it's fun to have the white hearts pop out and then have the background with these pretty pinks. For this, I did not wet down the cardstock with a baby wipe because the ink was wet enough to prevent it from cracking. Let me show you how this one turned out. And I have that upside down here. Let me flip this for you. I meant for the lighter color to be at the top, but that's all right. It still works. So let's put this card together. I'm going to be using the little monster die again. I'll attach my gray piece to a piece of poppy red cardstock. Such a gorgeous bright red. I love this cardstock. And I'll attach it to my top folding white card base. And it will have just the teeniest amount of a white border around that. I used one of the Essential Hearts dies from Spellbinders to die cut this cute little pink heart. This is pink sand cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment right onto that. You could, of course, put it in one of your stamping tools. I'm just taking a chance here and using an acrylic block. It says, "Forever Yours." This time the monster is going to be glued down flat onto the card. I added a little bit of black ink around the sides of him, but it doesn't show up very well here. And then he's going to be holding up this heart. I'll put him down first, and then the heart I'm going to pop up with some foam squares. I'll peel off the release paper and then position this so it looks like the monster is holding up the heart. And I want one of his eyeballs to be overlapping the heart a little bit as well. I added a few silver gems around the heart and the sentiment, and here he is, all done. Isn't that cute? Okay, this card focuses on the Stamp and Die of the Month Club, but I am going to use this background that I created with the 3D Embossing Folder Club. I'm cutting this panel down so it's a little bit smaller than an A2 sized card. I'm also cutting it into 3 pieces, so there are gaps between each piece. And then I'm going to pop these pieces up with some foam. This just adds some fun texture and interest to the background. And the white panel is 5.5 by 4.25. I'll put the bottom one down first, and then the top one. And then the center one will be a little more easy to center on this. I'm using the cute alphabet stamp on this card, and I'm just stamping it out with some more black ink, the VersaFine Onyx Black, which is my go-to ink unless I'm using my alcohol markers. I want the rest of it to be this kind of cherry red, and I didn't get it perfectly aligned, but it's good enough. I'll use the coordinating die to cut it out. And then this is going to go right in the middle of my card. I decided to mat this sentiment with 2 other pieces of cardstock. This dark pink, I believe this is Dahlia pink. I'm stamping a sentiment below it. And then I'm going to glue it onto a piece of black cardstock. I used my favorite postage edge die set to cut out the pink panel. And now I can glue down the alphabet piece right over the sentiment. And then I can add glue to the back where it's going to touch the 3 panels on this card. I'll use some black enamel dots to decorate this card. I love Spellbinders enamel dots. They have lots of different colors. And they also have different sizes on each acetate sheet. Now let me give you a close-up look at the finished card. The sub-sentiment says, "Thinking of you makes my heart skip a beat." And now let's do a little bit of glimmering. I love this month's club. So I'm going to glimmer it onto this piece of light blue cardstock. I pressed the timer, and once it stops blinking, I'll run it through my Platinum 6 very slowly. And I'm using the foil that came with this month's club. This one is called Matte Gold. Let me peel that off and show you how beautifully this glimmered up. It's such a large piece, and it's going to take up most of the room of your card. I also glimmered up the sentiments, and I'll use the coordinating dies to cut those out. I glimmered them onto a piece of yellow beeswax cardstock. I love yellow and blue together. I'm going to cut down my floral panel a little bit, so I'm using a rectangle die to cut this out. And then I'll use the edge die that came with this kit, cut off a corner of the panel. You could leave your floral piece just plain like this and it looks beautiful, but I decided to pull out my Prismacolor pencil and color them in. I just couldn't resist. So these are the colors I'm using. The florals are going to be the 2 different blues, and then I have a yellow for the centers and a green for the leaves. I did all of the coloring off camera for the sake of time. I added some dark blue ink to this dark blue panel just to add a little more drama to this card, and then I'm going to glue down my floral piece on top of this dark blue piece. The sentiment fits just perfectly up at the top, and I decided to pop that up with foam squares and use more enamel dots around the sentiment. And here is a close-up look at the finished card. I believe I've mentioned before in my videos that I just adore the Stencil of the Month Club. It's such a good value, and you can get so many different looks with your panels using these stencils. So I'm going to use the Argyle set first. I used the heart panel first with some dark red ink. And this is a piece of fog gray cardstock. It's a really pale gray. And then I used a dark ink for the little X's around the hearts. For the next stencil, I'm using some pink ink. And the gray cardstock makes it look kind of purpley. For my last stencil, I'm going to use a really grayish blue ink. And this creates a very colorful but subtle at the same time panel. Let me peel this off of my sticky mat. While I have all of my stencil paraphernalia out, I'm going to ink up this separate stencil, these little falling hearts, with some dark red ink on a piece of light orange cardstock. And I'll be making a card up with this one in just a minute, but I just wanted to include the process. So back to the Argyle card, I cut it down so that it's a little bit smaller than an A2 sized card, and I'm matting it with some wild berry, kind of a pinkish red cardstock. I stamped out all of the small sentiments from the Clear Stamp and Die of the Month Club and some of the diamonds. The sentiment I'm popping up with some foam, and this is going to go right in the center of the card. I'll add a few white or opal white gemstones to this, and here is a look at the finished card. Now let's use the orange stencil piece that I created with the red hearts. I cut out a bunch of hearts using Spellbinders Essential Hearts set again. I cut out a small heart and a large heart, and then I cut windows into them. And I'm using my glitter pen to make them look a little more metallic. I'll glue these down flat on the front of the card. This larger heart will kind of turn toward the left. And then the smaller heart, I'll angle toward the right. I stamped out several sentiments because I didn't know which one would fit the best inside the heart. The one I chose says, "Spread love wherever you go," and I'm popping it up with some foam pieces. And then I'm going to add some smooth silver discs around this panel. And that's all I'm doing to this card. But I love how it turned out. It was really fast and easy to put together. Let me give you a close-up look. When I angle it toward the light, you can really see that glitter on those hearts. For my last card, I'll be using the BetterPress Club. I'm going to use a piece of sage green cardstock, and I like to put it over the plate and roll up some tape behind it so I know exactly where the door is going to pick it up. I'll just kind of press it into the door. That's ready to go. And then I'm using my very favorite new ink from Spellbinders. This is a BetterPress ink, and it is called Spruce. It's kind of a bluey green ink, and it's gorgeous. I just bought the re-inker for that because I use this one so much. I like to ink it up several times, so it's nice and dark. Oftentimes I'll re-ink the little mini ink pad so that the ink is good and dark on the plate, and then it presses out perfectly. I'll run this through the Platinum 6 very slowly. And the spruce ink looks beautiful on the sage green cardstock. Again, this is a card panel that you can just leave it be as it is and it's done. But of course, I can never resist a chance to pull out my colored pencils. But let me give you a close-up look at how this pressed out. Isn't that beautiful? Pressing out the sentiment was a little more challenging. I had to go back and forth a few times to make sure I'm pressing it where I want it to be. But I did pretty good. It isn't exactly where I wanted it to be pressed out, but once I added some embellishments, it looks very intentional. Now let me show you this, and the sentiment says, "You're the friend everyone wishes for." Love that sentiment. So I'm going to use my Prismacolored pencils again. These are fabulous colored pencils, one of my favorite sets, and they color beautifully on colored cardstock. They're very creamy. I'm not going to color in this whole panel. I'm just going to do a little bit of selective coloring. And I'm not pressing down hard at all. I'm just relaxing my hand and coloring in some of the florals and some of the leaves. I chose 3 colors, orange, pink, and green. And then I'll show you how this looks with just a little bit of selective coloring on it. I'll attach it to a top folding white card base. And I'll add my embellishments next. These are some emerald gems. They're newish to the shop, but they're very pretty on this card. And as always, I will provide you the links to the products that I used in case you want to check any of them out. This was a fun change of pace from creating Christmas cards. And I love sending out Valentine's Day cards as well. Let me give you a close-up look at the finished card. As you can see, I just did very simple coloring with my Prismacolors. Thanks for watching, my crafty friends. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I gave you some fun inspiration. Happy crafting, everyone, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Take care. Bye.